Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show. Today, we're all very lucky because we have a special guest, a commissioner guest, the commissioner of the Crew League and an entrepreneur in his own, Eli Maroun. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, brother. Hope you're well.
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited to talk to you for a bunch of reasons, particularly the Crew League, which, as of recording this, season 2 is halfway through in terms of it being uploaded, getting out into the world. The feedback has been insane compared to season 1. But before we talk about some of the Crew League, I wanted to ask you, how did you get your start in media and the entertainment business? Because I'm sure it was a very long road before you were able to found a sports league.
Yeah, I guess I'll take you back to the beginning, right? I am from a very small town in New Jersey, uh, obviously played basketball, had no aspirations for the entertainment business growing up at all. I was a Middle Eastern Studies minor and a political science major at Rutgers University. Uh, Go Scarlet Knights. Um, Cousin who, I had aspirations to be like in Homeland Security, in the Army, and a police officer, sort of following the steps of a cousin. And then he passed with colon cancer. And it just sort of like shifted my interest. I started like club promoting, just getting into like entertainment related stuff. Found myself representing like this DJ who I used to buy mixtapes from. And I remember one time I called him and I'm like, I need to buy some CDs, because I was like buying CDs for like 25 cents and then dropping them off at like an uncle's gas station to sell them. Like every hustle in the world I've done. And I called him one time, and when I go pick up CDs, he would always tell me like, I used to be Biggie's DJ. I used to be this, such and such. And I was like, just give me my CDs, bro. And one time I called him, and he was like, I'm on tour with Lil Wayne, but I'm in New York. Come to the show. I'm like, you're on tour with Lil Wayne, of course. So he gave me passes, and I found myself backstage in a time where it was sneaking in backstage was my way back there. They actually gave me a pass. I started to network, found a way to get myself on tour. While on tour, I started to make friends with some of the up and coming artists that were on the tour. One was an up and coming female rapper named Nicki Minaj. The other was an up and coming Canadian rapper named Drake, both very up and coming at the time. And people don't know this, but Nicki was originally, before she was even signed to Lil Wayne's record label, she was signed to Bad Boy Management, which was Puff Daddy and my mentor at the time, James Cruz. So I just went up to him backstage at a concert and was like, yo, I have this idea. Roses around her album coming out on Valentine's Day. And they're like, cool, get it done. And I was like, get it done. Like, I was like 20 years old. I was like, I thought like you say an idea and like it gets done like with bosses. So anyways, I came home and I started like cold calling at the time. Anybody I can Google, right? So it was like 1-800-Flowers and Pro Flowers and all of like the players in the floral space at the time. And I felt like I was getting nowhere. I was talking to like old female receptionists, like saying Nicki, like Nicki who, and literally writing down Nicki Minaj. And eventually got a phone call back from Lisa Hendrickson, who I still consider an integral part of my life, who at the time was the CMO at 1-800-Flowers, made the introduction, and ended up becoming a very, very lucrative deal for not only Nicki and Bad Boy Management that commissioned it, but also Puff did his own collaboration around his new vodka company, Ciroc, at the time, made a ton of money there. From there, it just sort of, I worked very closely with his manager, James Cruz, and Puff would just sporadically like hit me. And there was a time where he asked me to come and join his team and basically asked me to be his assistant. And my reply again, was the greatest, worst reply of my life. I'm like, assistant? I'm not no assistant. I was a kid. And he was like, best answer I ever heard, click. And it's sort of been history from there. You know, I spent 7 years as his day-to-day manager. The title was day-to-day manager, but as you can imagine, it entailed really handled all facets of his personal life and business life, as you can imagine. And a few years ago, left with Jordan, who, you know, my business partner. And you know, I always say, like, being around somebody like Puff, he inspires you to aspire to be like him, right? To be great. Like, there's nobody on earth that pushes somebody to be great. So we started a business where we lived in between brands and culture and represented a lot of talent as extensions of their management and a lot of brands, and helping them out. You know, we like making them cool, right? And you know, you were around me at the Crew League. There's in the most humble sense, I don't think there's a lot of people like me that can have an eloquent conversation as we're having right now, but also be able to talk to the rappers in the studio at 3 a.m. while pumping shots and throwing money in the air, right? So
Yeah.
had this niche, and it led to what we're probably about to talk about, which is found a lane providing these unique content offerings, which has been incredible. And, you know, the Crew League being the first of them.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about the Crew League in a second, but you said you worked with Diddy for 7 years. What do you think? What do you think makes him unique? What do you think separates him from all the other people that try to be like him?
Everything. Puff is he's one of a kind. I mean, when he locks in and puts his head down and wants to achieve something or get something done and has a goal, there's nobody on earth like him. From a motivational side of things, there's nobody that'll push you to be great. He does it obviously in a very unique manner, in that, like, it's almost like boot camp, but you don't come around him and not want to be great, or not, and he doesn't allow you not to be great, right? In whatever sense it is. Sometimes it's on a personal level, sometimes it's on a business level. But the answer to that is everything. There's nothing normal about that man at all.
That's pretty
Which
cool.
is great, which is a good thing.
One of my favorite clips on the entire internet is the video of him closing a deal on the phone, slamming the phone down and standing up saying, "I want more, I want another one." I mean, it's one of a kind energy. So that's super cool that you've been around that so much.
So I'm so happy that video is a viral video, but I mean, that was a Tuesday. Like, that's how he is, like that was a rare video from the early 2000s, but that's a Tuesday. He closes a deal, he's hyped. What's next? Like, there's no, especially at this point in his life, right, where he's sort of like done everything, right? He's been a part of everything. He's won every accolade and award. He's all about like legacy right now, right? So like, it's dope to see him never be like, cool, let's take a break. He's always like, what's next? Let's get it, which is dope to have a mentor, a former employer, and now a partner like that drives and pushes things like that forward.
I love that. Now, fast forward to the Crew League. How did the original idea for season 1 come about, and how was season 1 different from the original concept idea?
Yeah, so the Crew League was years sort of in the making, right? Because if you really think about what the Crew League is, it's not like we reinvented the wheel, right? We just executed it very well. Originally, the Crew League was sort of like a battle of crews without the celebrity aspect, right? It was like a group of friends. We all play basketball. I play in many different circles here in California that are entertainment related, right? Like, we have a game that we play on Tuesdays at the Weekend's house. Name dropping, but factual, right? We have a game Saturdays. We have a game Saturdays where we play at, Party Next Door's house, and just different like games. And a group of managers of ours were like, yo, like, let's just do like a management group battle, like a competition. And for a year, we really tried to plan this thing, right? And when we would try to do it, this group was on tour with their artists, or this group was, we were all just very busy, and it never sort of came to fruition. That's sort of where the logo came from, which happens to be me at 11 years old. And the idea we just never were able to execute because we were all so busy, right? Then the pandemic hit, right? And when the pandemic hit, it's not like I was like, let's do the crew league, right? Everybody had to like reinvent their business models. And all of the managers, especially in the entertainment industry, and the artists had nothing to do, right? We were playing basketball, we were on social media. So we started playing more aggressively. And I remember distinctively being at the Weeknd's house in Calabasas, and it was like a very intense game. And went up for a shot and blocked a shot of the greatest, our greatest entertainer of all time. And I just remember like, man, like this is so cool. Like if the world could see like that, the greatest entertainer of all time gets his shot blocked, or or vice versa, not specifically to him. It's so cool. And I just remember coming home and I'm like, yo, we're gonna do this, right? And just started putting it together, brought in a partner on the season one that represented a ton of artists, including the Kid Leroy and G Herbo and a few other guys. And we just sort of started doing it, we're just like started announcing artists. Like we didn't have it planned. We were just kind of like going, right? Like we were like, cool, Kid Leroy and G Herbo want to do it. Let's announce them. Oh, great. DDG wants to get in. He just hit us. Let's announce him. And we were just like going, right? We didn't know what it would become. And at the time we had no partners to offset the thing. So every decision we were making was sort of like eating into my life savings, right? And this is something people don't know. I emptied my bank for season one. I emptied my personal bank account and took, by the end of it was in debt, $300,000 or $400,000, right? With no plan. No, didn't know if it would sell, didn't know what it would become, didn't know anything. And, basically took the biggest risk of my life. Like had I not been able to find a buyer, and had we not been able to find this lane, my life would be very different right now, right? I'd be trying to get out of debt, out of a big debt, like not a college loan, like a big debt. So it worked out, thank God, but this was season two to an extent.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. I remember, because I had first started talking to your partner, Jordan, because we were thinking about doing a podcast around the Crew League. And then I told him that, I'd actually done, 5 years of play-by-play broadcasting. And when I was in high school, I won best in the country for it. And he's like, oh, broadcast the league. And then we finally agreed on it 4 days before we started filming.
Well, do you want the true story behind that?
Definitely.
I was anti-Buster all the way.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I was anti-Buster the whole way. I'm like, bro, like he's not the culture. He's not it. And now I will tell you, Buster, you're a blessing to the Crew League, to myself, to everything so far. And hopefully when we tell our stories, right, when you tell your side of the story, hopefully the Crew League was a blessing to sort of what, you were able to springboard and continue to build. But yeah, I was very anti-Buster. I didn't get it. But here's the thing with me, right? And this is why Jordan and I have such an amazing partnership. I'm so locked in on what I know, right? Like I'm not very, the basketball culture, and something that obviously I've learned and obviously now I'm a player in, was something I wasn't privy to. I wasn't knowledgeable on. I didn't even know your brand, right? I wasn't familiar with the Hoops Nation. That's no disrespect. You have an amazing brand. I was just so locked in on like, I know the culture, right? You see how I move around at my thing. Like if you're a rapper, like you have to know me and I know you. And like, I just didn't really see it. And I think why the crew league works, right? Obviously you're the voice of the crew league, and to an extent we're making you as a face, right? We put your face next to 20 rappers on a poster, right? Which is an unheard of thing. And that was by choice, right? Like I said, I approve all the posters. And because you are a unique talent in that you may sound and look a certain way, but you have an opinion on everything the same way. Everybody has an opinion. And in many cases, it's a great, you're very important to what the crew league is what I'm saying. But I wasn't a Buster fan at the start. Now I'm the biggest Buster fan. I actually might start an Instagram page as the Buster fan club.
I appreciate that. That's pretty hilarious. No, yeah, I speaking of season 1 versus season 2, I mean, for anybody that has seen both, you can tell just by watching it that the production value is significantly higher, and the names are bigger. Although a lot of the season 1 names have gotten significantly bigger from when they played in season 1, which is also an interesting dynamic of how these things sort of play out in the music and hip hop scene, how fast these guys can grow.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, and this is something that I think separates us from everything else, right? Because my background and our background is branding, marketing, and positioning, right? So, and from a talent perspective, I'm gonna pat my own back on this one. Like, I know what's coming next, right? Because I'm in the mix and I know who's next. I know what's going to happen. I know who's working on what, who has things coming out, right? In 6 months, you're going to have a very similar conversation on this talent, right? For instance, we have a game this week coming out on Friday with DDG and Party, right? Who are both well-known hip hop acts, but in 6 months, you'll see where they are, right? And I'm not saying the crew league is springboarding that by any means, but we are going to be supporting their music. Their music does live on our promotional assets. We are pushing it. Party and DDG, for instance, are now being introduced to a Chris Brown audience or a Jason Derulo audience or a Christian Combs audience. So in a way, they are promoting each other, right? And they're sharing audiences. Right? I can't say the crew league is responsible for the growth of Kid Laroi, but it probably helped certain things, right? Kid Laroi was able to take some of Russ's fans and potentially convert them, or take some of whoever he played first round DDG and convert them into fans. So very much so, we keep that in mind, and we want a balance of people that are gonna drive audience, but also the ones that are like, cool, like this fan would like this fan, right? I'll tell you, there was some pretty big names that I turned down for season 2. And the reason I turned them down is just they didn't fit the collective of what it is, right? And I'll give you the best example of it without saying a name. One of the teams that I turned down, the team captains, had 12 million followers on Instagram, and he's a huge Latin pop star, right? And he's great at basketball. It just didn't fit this, right? And you have to think about that for the narrative of what it is. Will this audience enjoy this? I don't want to call it a villain, but this other competitor. That's not to say the crew league isn't going to have a Latin pop star season and or transition into another sport, and or a combination of all of it. The crew league brand is very ambiguous in that it can go anywhere, like the mission statement and the mission of the crew league is it's a battle of crews. I'm gonna lose my mind with this Wi-Fi, Buster.
No, you're good. You actually got the entire point in. So you alluded to the possibility of jumping into other sports. However much you can say, what do you sort of envision the future of the crew league being? And are there any people that you really want involved?
Yeah. In full transparency, we are talking about doing a very unique offering around a different sport. I don't want to get too much into it. Bleacher Report might be listening. But no, we have some dope plans to flip a few other sports. We have the talent already sort of secured. Definitely, there's a season 3 coming very soon. I don't want to say who the winner was, although you know, but that winner was very adamant about calling out a few people, as you know. So we've already contacted those people and let them know that it's coming.
Called out.
And we've had some amazing guests that were in our crowd as well that have Crew League is coming, but be on the lookout for sure for some other unique content offerings. Definitely Crew League related.
Now, I've got a question that you've probably never been asked before. If you could have 2 artists have Crew League teams who are no longer living, just historically speaking, you can pick anyone back to the 19th century or even before. Who would you want to have Crew League basketball teams?
I mean, Michael Jackson would be fucking historic, right?
That would be insane. Dancing against Chris Brown. Imagine that.
Wait a minute. What was the episode? Did you ever watch Chappelle? Are you too young for Chappelle show?
I've seen Chappelle show.
What was the basketball competition with like?
Oh, Prince. Yeah, it was Prince.
Yeah.
It was Prince.
So I mean, Prince and MJ would go crazy.
Dude, imagine, that would be nuts.
You know, coming from my background, I think the cool East Coast versus West Coast Biggie and Tupac crews would probably be dangerous but fun at the time. Man, so many. To be honest with you, some of the ones that I would love are people that are born, right? Like I think, you know, I don't think it's far-fetched to see an OVO in Dreamville competition, right? Powered by the Crew League, you know, manifest it. We've had some prelim conversations, but let's manifest it into the air.
Manifesting.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, I told you I play basketball and I'm very friendly with the EXO family. So I think there's a world where I can potentially participate. But yeah, I think shirts versus blouses with Michael Jackson and Prince would be legendary.
Dude, that would be insane. Yeah, my personal dream matchup, just from being a fan of these guys, would be sort of a Travis Scott versus Drake. I think that would be a fun matchup.
Travis, well, you got to remember, Travis got some hoopers on the team, right? Shaq is part of the Cactus Jack family. So this is a funny story. So Shaq West is managed by a guy named Busy.
Yep, I know Busy super well.
And his day-to-day is a guy named Dre. Their company's called Copy and Paste. Shout out to my brothers. I went to college with them and we played intramural basketball together. So right? Funny. Like, yeah, we were on the same intramural team at Rutgers. So yeah, Shaq was somebody that we were aggressively trying to get on to season 2. Obviously, it didn't work out because he took a contract overseas. I don't know if he's still there or not.
I think he might be. I don't know.
Yeah, he may be, but at that time, that's what they were working on and finalizing. So yeah, I mean, those are my guys. And you know, Travis, I've known Travis for 10 years. Travis, I knew Travis since he was in college at UT, Texas. People don't know that. He had a little buzz out there. So yeah, those are my guys. Not far-fetched at all. And let's manifest it. Let's do some totally. Magic.
And I'll give some credit to Chase B as well, Travis's DJ and producer. I think he
too, right?
I used to play with him at the Y because we were actually neighbors for 2 years from when I was 8, when I graduated high school and moved into the city. We were neighbors in the same apartment building. So
Wow.
we used to play at the Y all the time, but he can hoop too.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, check out Chase. That's my guy.
and yeah, I mean those would be some fun games. But this season, they're even so far that are already out that we can talk about, like the Chris Brown Derulo game. I mean, talk about a good schedule to get those guys to play against each other in an early round. I mean, is that
You, the commissioner is very good at uh, matching up personalities, right? I happen to know both gentlemen. Um, and if you know Derulo, and I think you got to know him a little bit, Buster, throughout the weekend, but he's just one of the nicest humans on earth. Like, he's just a really good, cool, nice guy, right? Like, he was actually like a very fourth quarter addition, just so you know, because he had a baby just a few days before the crew league. And Chris, I will say this about Chris, right? And Chris has been a homie for a very long time as well. Chris was so Chris is not a better ambassador to the league than Chris, right? Chris had a 12 o'clock call time both days and arrived at 11:30, right? And was literally the last person to leave. It's just a testament to how much Chris really likes basketball. And I don't want to favor anybody, but Chris was hooping out there, right? The first game, I don't want to give too much away about his second round game, but I think he scored, he was participated in half his team points, which is very rare. So yeah, it was a really good matchup. Chris is incredible at basketball. Jason is also very good at basketball. I know it didn't really resonate in his game, but hopefully we'll have, Derulo back and he can prove himself again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in round one, Chris was definitely the most involved out of anybody season one or season two so far. So
Sure.
you and I both know, but it'll be fun to see how it all shakes out, in the actual episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Chris can really play.
now you mentioned knowing guys like Travis for 10 years, having been with Diddy for a super long time, knowing Nicki Minaj at the very beginning of her career. What do you think separates the greats from the artists who only last for 6 months because of TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, all of the guys, all of the people, not guys, because Nikki's a female, all of the people you named sort of broke before this like ADD era, right? That we can
Right.
call this time, right? Is people are very, what's next? What can we see next? But I think will last because we have some artists in this generation that I think will have a longer career. Do I think there will be another Drake that has 10 years or like, no, I actually don't. But the difference is their work ethic and their strategy, right? Like, you have to be very strategic in this day. You have to know how to use the internet. You have to know how to stay out of trouble. You have to surround yourself with the right people, take on the right brand partnerships, and sort of put a team in place to win, right? I have this saying I always tell people: the most addictive drug in the world is the light, right? So for an artist, when they feel the light or are on a stage and it's bright, that's a feeling that is very hard to match, right? I never like stepped foot in the light, nor do I want to. Like, I'm scared of that. But when you have this feeling where you're getting the attention, it's a drug. And the problem is the ones that last understand that sometimes that light shines very bright. Sometimes it's going to be dim. It's dim, you can't rush it back, right? You have to allow it to come back naturally and stay sort of relevant in the darkness and then pop up when it's time. In this day and age, kids just think like they'll chase anything to stay relevant. And that's not the way to have a long career.
That was really That was a
You
really
like that analogy?
interesting point. I've never heard anybody put it like that, but you definitely
Yeah.
see, a lot of these guys like Drake and Travis, just for example, aren't running around trying to get posted by like
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah. You can't chase the light. You have to, the superstars that last get it naturally, and they make the light. But yeah, that's a great analogy for sure.
And they're good people too. I've never spent any time around Drake, but I've spent a little bit of time around Travis, and just seeing the way that people like that move at that level,
Yep.
it's also inspiring. Like I'm sure you saw with Diddy as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could tell you there's an element related to the crew league and their success stories in that no basketball relation. Let's just talk about the crew, or the word crew, for instance. They surround themselves with people, right? And you could take that into any field, right? Who's the biggest athlete potentially in the world, right? You name that person, you can name the crew around them, right? You can name every friend of LeBron, right? You can name every friend of KD, right? Not every friend, but you can name the people that allow them to be bigger than a person that plays basketball, right?
Totally.
And it's the same thing with any business, especially in entertainment, because you can't do it by yourself. You need the people to put it in place for you.
That's another great bar. I mean, you're out
Bars.
here out here dropping. Now where should people find you best if you want them to, or where can people watch the Crew League best?
Yeah, the crew league is, obviously they're the partnership with Revolt. So it's on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in the crew league, type in Revolt, will come right up. And if you have cable television, most people don't these days, but if you happen to be one of the couple 100 million people that have it, we're on, programming a couple hours a day. Just look for Revolt, whatever your cable provider is, but you can find it there.
It's so dope, man. Well, I appreciate you for many reasons, having me a part of the league, coming on the
Thank
podcast, and I'm excited to see everything to come, and hopefully help out more.
Yeah, and congratulations on everything. Obviously, I told you I'm going to start the Buster Share Instagram fan page. So, guys,
Thanks.
if you guys want to participate or be in the fan club, hit me up. And I'm looking forward to watching you grow too in your career, bro. And hopefully, we continue to align paths and grow together. And Jordan was absolutely right about you. You the man.
Appreciate that, man. Well, everybody, follow this man, support everything he does. My brother, thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Buster.
All right, everybody. Peace.